rebates, payment methods, delivery options, stock inventory levels, and the like. It is, in its essence, a data structure that is neutral to industry. So it can be used for automotive, for real estate, for jobs, for everything like that. It is neutral to the stages of the value chain you're working in. So from raw materials, via production, through retail, to after-sales support, even to disposal of objects. So, it is meant to be neutral to the countries it is being used in. And this started as an academic research project actually around the year of 2001, and is now that piece of semantic web research that is being widely adopted by major industrial players, namely Google, Yahoo, Bing, and Yandex are also considering to use it. But I would like to start from a business perspective. Is it, from your experience, is it difficult to get a taxi?
Yes.
Yes. But it's not difficult to articulate what you're looking for, and it's not difficult for the person offering the service to articulate what's being offered. So it's not that you order a taxi and you get a frog or a pizza or something like that. The problem is that there are just not enough taxis in Paris. Okay. So it's not a semantic problem. We are communicating very well with the potential audience. It's just that there is, due to regulations or whatever reasons, I don't want to go into politics, there are less taxis than you need. So quite clearly you contradict to my claim that it's not difficult to get a taxi. But from the perspective of communication, it is not difficult. A taxi is a pretty standardized service in most countries around the globe. So when you travel to a foreign location, you have usually no problem in communicating that you're looking for a taxi. But anybody of you built a house recently? Is it difficult to buy sewage tubes? No.
France is a special country.
Well, it can be very difficult to articulate in the European context if you think you buy sewage tubes from Austria, and they first of all, they need to fit physically from the dimensions, but they also need to have all the certifications. So the French code of fire protection must be met by the sewage tubes and all that. So it's pretty complicated, and this item must match exactly to your preference. And if you build a great house, and if you are very rich, then you don't just have sewage tubes, you also have these hydraulic bollards that erect from underground to stop uninvited people from entering your yard. Is it difficult to find a supplier for this? Probably a little bit more. I mean, Google for bollards and find someone who can deliver. It can be very difficult. Now, economists call this characteristic of goods that they are more specific than others, simply specificity, and they define it as the loss in value between the best usage of a good and the second best usage. For example, a wedding cake is more specific than a pain au chocolat, because a pain au chocolat creates almost the same utility whether you eat it after lunch or at a wedding. A wedding cake delivered one day too late with a spelling mistake on it is worth a lot less than delivered with the correct spelling, at the correct location, at the correct point in time. Now what we can observe is that the specificity of the items that we produce and consume has been growing tremendously in the past 100 years. And a striking example is the automotive industry. In 1908, you could buy one mass-produced car, or you could not buy a car. So you could buy the 14 Black, or you could use your bicycle instead. In 2012, the number of choices of buying a car is almost infinite. So you have like maybe 12 major brands, and each brand has billions or even trillions of possible configurations, like with wipers, with green wipers, a red car, and blue bumper, and like so many configurations. So quite clearly, in modern markets, the choices that are available for a potential consumer of your goods are just too many for a human to process. Nobody of us, when Googling for potential hotels, when Googling for potential cars, when Googling for potential sewage tubes, can fairly screen the space of options. So when you buy a digital camera, for example, what you do is not really comparing in parallel the many dimensions, battery lifetime versus weight, image quality versus amount of options, add-ons and the like. What you typically do is you go to some kind of test or review site, you choose one or two top configurations, and then you just search for the cheapest supplier, which means that you very, very prematurely restrain your search space to a very, very small subset. So you don't fairly compare 100 Renault configurations with 200 Volkswagen configurations with 100 Nissan configurations, and in the end, after weighing and judging all the different parameters, then create a ranking of those. What you typically do is that you, on some preferences, rational or irrational ones, maybe you constrain your space to one or two brands and to one or two flagship models, and then you search for used or new cars for that. Used cars are an excellent example for that. You don't fairly compare all the various options, distance between you and the location of the car, mileage versus price and all that. You do a fairly random choice in that huge ocean of options. And what we can witness is that the specificity of the goods being exchanged has been on the rise for at least 3 decades. So companies produce and sell more specific goods than ever before, and we as consumers expect more specific goods than ever before. We want companies to fulfill our very specific preferences. And there's a huge difference between e-commerce in the textbooks in university textbooks, and e-commerce and commerce in reality. Because we're not talking about bread, and in semantic web example of I sell bread for €2 per bread. If you go to a bakery in a developed and rich country, then we typically expect now, without maybe reflecting on that, 30, 40 types of bread. If you go to other industries, you'll find similar patterns. So it's not about bread or no bread, it's about an organic ciabatta and a pain au chocolat with chocolate from Switzerland or something like that. Yeah? We don't buy black coffee or no black coffee. We want a frappuccino vanilla flavor with organic skimmed lactose-free milk. And if this is not available, we tweet like fail. Okay? And huge tubes, the full image should be like that. You have like hundreds of configurations times 16 European certifications. So it's really difficult to do a fair screening of the market when you build a house and want to search for suppliers. Even mineral waters, when our grandparents bought mineral waters, they bought Forte mineral water, or they left it. They bought Volvic, or they didn't buy Volvic, or they went to the tap. Okay? Now, in our university on campus, there's a very small grocery shop. It's probably half the size of this room, and they have 27 flavors of mineral water. I'm not talking about Coca-Cola and other soft drinks, just mineral water, 27 types. Or if you go to a home improvement market, you have tons of different tools, and they cannot be very well substituted. It's not one generic, standardized tool, but like thousands. In Germany, there's even a company that produces horse muesli. So if you take care of the digestive tract of your horse, then buy the muesli for horses. And all these most companies nowadays survive because they find a very specific profile for their products and for their brand that caters for the needs of a very specific audience. So it's very, very important that this granular profile of your products is being communicated fairly, because they are not selling animal food. They are selling horse muesli, and they want to communicate the message that they are selling horse muesli to people interested in buying this particular thing for their animal friends. Now, what is the problem with using the World Wide Web for talking to customers in this setting? We all know that e-commerce, using web technology for communicating with customers and carrying out transactions, is a key driver of the growth on the web. We have all these figures about the size of the web. We should also add figures about the impact of e-commerce data on that part. And I think actually it will be way more than 50% of that data will be somehow related to e-commerce scenarios. Okay? Because all human books digitized in comparison to all the item pages of shops are probably a very, very small part. Shops, for example, typically have, even small shops, 1,000 items on sale, and many middle-sized shops have between 50,000 and 150,000 items. And there are millions of such shops. Okay. Now, what is the problem of using the web for talking to prospective clients? The main challenge, and that's not widely understood, is to articulate your value proposition fairly. That means you don't want to be reduced just to the price. That is something everybody would agree. I have to be thankful for not being chased out of the room for saying such a triviality here. You don't want to be reduced to the price. But what does this mean? You want to articulate the different dimensions of your products and services in a way so that the web can communicate that to your target audiences. And what happens nowadays, and this is why it's not a triviality, is that the web greatly fails in exactly communicating the specific dimensions of your offer. You go to a comparison shopping site and to a review site, choose your camera model, and then you go to the cheapestOffers.com and search with brute force for the cheapest supplier, which is very bad for both sides of the game. It's bad for the supplier who differs in some dimensions, is a little bit more expensive, and is on rank 127 in the price comparison results. You as a consumer would be happy to pay 20 bucks more for delivery to your door, for an additional payment option, for a longer warranty, for an additional battery included for free, or for a netbook with a bigger battery installed. But because this offer is 30 bucks more expensive, you just don't see it. So it's bad for you as a consumer because you don't get the most utility, the most value for your money, and it's bad for the company trying hard to differentiate, trying hard to find a niche that it can fulfill better than others. So companies all complain they are reduced to the price, and consumers complain that they cannot fairly evaluate options. Now the challenge is, if you look at the automotive industry, how can you disseminate the many dimensions of your offer in a way using web technology? Think of a used car. We have here two used cars. They differ in prices. They have a very differing mileage. One car is 6,500 miles and on the odometer, and the other one has 23,000. And it's like a snowflake. It's like a star that reflects the profile of these offers. And which one is better? Highly depends on your preference structures as a consumer. So there's no object. Google cannot really rank those two for you. Because Google doesn't know about your budget, Google doesn't know whether you have spare time activities that require a huge trunk volume. Google doesn't know whether you're a peaceful family father trying to survive on the road, or whether you're full of testosterone and trying to impress the world. That Michael Schumacher has nothing. So for each of these dimensions in here, people have preference structures that may be non-linear and that may be not even independent of each other. Of the other one. So if you delegate the selection of the matching product to a single website or so, it's almost impossible to find the best match between demand and supply. So what happens now is that the search space is prematurely constrained to one or two configurations, and then you search for just on that small subset, which is very bad, again, for both sides of the game. Now, this problem of articulating your value proposition includes two challenges. And one of those is well understood, and everybody working in web agencies or in a company that has significant e-commerce activities, this one challenge is very well understood. The first part of the challenge is articulating your value proposition on your site. This is what companies do pretty well. They have a nice responsive design. They have faceted search, so you can have sliders and you can search for more expensive hotels or shorter travel times. So for example, kayak.com for travel has very nice sliders for searching, for constraining the search space in various dimensions. So this works very well on the single site or on the single portal. So if Renault, for example, improves the performance of the sites when a human enters that site, that is good for articulating the value proposition for the fraction of potential clients that actually come to your page. The second challenge is to articulate your value proposition along the World Wide Web so that search engines, third-party sites, or any computational devices that act on behalf of your of your target audiences can understand. So in a sense, the challenge is not only to talk to customers that come to your page, but to talk to the digital devices that are between you and your customers. All the iPhones, iPad, mobile applications, browser extensions, portal sites that do part of the filtering and ranking, that support your potential audience in screening the market. And this is not widely understood. So again, articulating value on the value proposition on your site, that's state-of-the-art web engineering, and that's something many companies can do pretty well. And unfortunately, I must say that really, I hope I don't insult anybody in the room, unfortunately, the design of web pages is largely in the hands of design-oriented folks. So many big agencies evolved from design-oriented traits. So like screen designers and people with expertise in typography, and that's all very, very important to have a nice front end if a human visits your store. It's as important as having a nice lighting when you have a physical store. You want to impress people who come that close. So information architecture challenges, page speed, support for mobile devices, responsive design, and all that. So that's fully understood, that is important, but that's only 50% or even 20% of the real problem. Because if you improve just your on-site, the on-site experience, that's like decorating the store. It may convince people who enter the doors of your store, who spend already time in your store, who already come to your store. You may, if you have better lighting and nice wallpaper and more competent staff, people will maybe stay longer in your shop, buy more, so you can increase the conversion rate from interested to transaction in that store. But it has zero effect on people who wander down two streets east of your location. If you improve the decoration of your store, it has zero impact on people who pass your store every day when commuting, but just 100 meters east of your current, of your actual location. So it has no effect on people who are not entering the store, and this means if you polish your site and if user interaction on your site, you have zero impact on people who preview your page, who consider your offer only via several hops of indirection, or for example, via Google. So if you have a nice restaurant page with impressive images of your beautiful decoration, but people just see your restaurant in Google Places with a phone number and a street address on Google Maps, then all the effort that you put in improving the interaction on the site is useless. Okay? Now, as I said, the second bigger challenge is to articulate the value across the World Wide Web so that all digital devices that are being used for processing the information about your products can make sense out of that. So what you're trying to do is preserve the full dimensions so that a search engine, a browser extension, a mobile application, any other computational device, even Siri, so that Siri can make use of that. So if you're asking for where's a Chinese restaurant near the Eiffel Tower, then that the fact that something is a Chinese restaurant is accessible to Siri. And in the future it will be a big challenge to feed all the various clients, including such that are voice-based like Siri, with sufficient information about your offer. In fact, there's one big trend in the search industry going on. They try to customize the matchmaking process more and more, which means that the individual ranking, the 10 results that you see on the first page, more and more depend on profile profiles from the site and profiles and information about the person querying. Orbitz, for example, you know, the big tourism portal, is now adopting the ranking to the type of operating system used for browsing. If you're an Apple user, you see on average 30% more expensive hotel rooms. Not the same hotel rooms are more expensive. It's not that they cheat you. It's just that they assume if you're an Apple user, you're willing to spend a little bit more and you're able to spend a little bit more on more beautiful things. So you see the 4-star hotels, more 4-star hotels, more expensive ones, and they found that by data breach. So what search engines are now trying to do is customize the matchmaking process, and in order to, so that the top 10 results you see fit much better to you as a searching person. And in order to do that, they do two things. They try to grasp more signals from the page, so they know more about the offer, which opening hours, which payment options, which credit cards you can accept, all that stuff, and more about the searching individual. This is why Google asks you to log in. Why Google offers so many services, so that you log in, and they can always augment the profile. They know more about you. And this is not mainly Big Brother is watching you, is not the intention. Maybe in some countries, hopefully not in too many countries. But the main motivation for that is, if Google knows more about you, they can much better compute a customized ranking for you. If they know that you own this credit card, then they can rank a restaurant much higher that accepts that credit card. If they know that you're using an Apple computer and that you're driving a Renault Clio, and you Google for car charger cell phone, then they can maybe guess that you also have an iPhone and you drive a Renault, so they immediately offer you on the top, in the top rank a cell phone charger suitable for a Renault Clio and an iPhone, even though you didn't say so. Okay? So the big challenge for search engines is to get more information about the sites and to get more information about the querying individual to, so that they can improve the matchmaking performance. What is sent over the wire currently is just sufficient to tell a browser how to display it. So the colors, the font sizes. So the metadata, the information sent over the current web consists of two layers. You have content, the actual texts, the images, the sound files, and you have metadata, data about data, that indicates, that conveys design-oriented aspects. It shows you the size of the image, it shows you the font sizes, the positioning, and all that. So you have these two layers. You have the actual pure text, and your font information, positioning, and all that. And that's all that's sent over the wire. What is not sent over the wire is the original structure of the data. Now, we all know that computers can work better with structured data than with unstructured data. So if you have a nice Excel sheet or an Microsoft Access table, you can automate a task, for example, a mail merge operation, very easily. You can say, dear Mr. Miller, dear Professor Meyer, blah, 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 all that, if you have structured data. Structure eases automation in all aspects of our lives. This is why public administration, and the public administration asks you to fill forms. Then they have 21 fields, and they can algorithmically tell a staff member how to algorithmically process that application for a grant. If in field 21 you have yes, and in field 29 then decline. Okay. And this structure helps mechanizing the processing of information. And this is why all information in computers is typically structured. Now the bad thing is that all serious websites use a database with structured data in the back end to power that page. So Best Buy or other e-commerce sites have a huge relational database with information about all the products and their features, and Renault has dozens of databases in the back end, and Volkswagen and all the other players in the field have such structured data. But when they send it over the wire, all the structure is lost. You just see the content, the texts, and the information about how it should look like. There is like a huge shredder between the sender and the recipient. So if you draw the analogy of using forms with the public administration, that's like filling your tax declaration form in a highly structured manner, 21 fields, and you fill in everything so that the guy in the administration can process it without thinking too much, just following the law. But because you're nasty, you run it through a shredder, and put it in a transparent plastic bag, and hand it over to the tax office, tax collector, and say, here's my tax declaration, in small stripes. The information is still there, but you leave it to the recipient to reconstruct the structure. Okay? So the World Wide Web is the biggest shredder for data structure in the history of automated processing of information. Now the problem for you as someone using the web for talking to target audiences is that the majority of candidate clients never visits your site. So we have click-through rates between search engine and site of only in the order of magnitude of 5%. I'm not arguing about a few percents in here, but like it's between 1 and 10% definitely. So many people screen the option space by Googling. They enter some keywords, and very often your page is among the relevant pages, even if they are millions. So you may be interesting for that audience. But the majority of people never goes beyond the page with the top 10 results, search results, the organic search results on the results page. Only the top link that will finally be followed will get the attention of an actual client. So the majority of people interact with your information only via an intermediary, which is in this case Google. So they never go to your restaurant page with the beautiful images. They stop in the Google Map or the Google Places overview. Only 5% will actually hit your page. So only for these 5%, all your beautiful responsive design, the fast speed, the nice colors, the nice grid layout, the beautiful fonts will have an effect. For all those who just interact via a computational device, for example a search engine, all this effort is insufficient. So this is what I call the search engine barrier, because it's between the consumers and the companies offering goods and services manifested as web pages. And this is actually a new digital divide, because between clients, the third tendency is that between clients and companies offering products or services, there will be more and more computational devices. Horizontally, more types of devices. So you search mobile, you search on the iPad, you search on the desktop computer, you search voice-based. And also vertically, in the sense that there may be chains of applications that consume data from each other. So one Google crawls data, or someone else crawls data, and some mobile site uses the Google API to present that, and that's presented by another service. So there may be chains of computational services that are between the offer and the demand. So, as I said, horizontally you have different types of computation devices, major search engines, mobile applications, browser extensions, new search engines and services, or any form of content syndication and affiliate marketing. And you have vertically more devices, so that these may be really chains of computation devices processing the data. Okay? So for example, if a mobile application uses the Facebook Open Graph and the Google API, then you have the pages, you have Facebook and Google, and then the mobile application that uses that data. And the challenge is to preserve your value proposition, all the different dimensions of your offer, via this technical channel. And the solution to this problem, the idea that the semantic web community is proposing in here, and that's already being adopted, is to add a third layer